Don't come to the wedding. That was the text my mother sent me at 7:42 on a Thursday morning, while I was kneeling on the concrete floor of my warehouse, zip-tying ivory chair sashes into neat bundles for the reception she apparently no longer wanted me to attend. My name is Amanda Miller. I'm 34 years old, a single mother of two, and I own a small event rental company in North Carolina that I built after my divorce with one van, one storage unit, and a credit card that used to terrify me every time I swiped it. I had spent 3 months turning my sister's wedding into the kind of celebration she could never have afforded on her own. I had covered the venue deposit. I had booked the custom lighting under my business account. I had loaned her my floral arch, my champagne wall, my linens, my aisle runners, my entire Saturday crew, and worst of all, I had used my own card to hold the final balance because my mother said, "Family helps family, Amanda. Don't make this awkward." Then my phone buzzed again. "You and your kids only make things uncomfortable." Before I could even breathe, my sister replied in the family group chat with one laughing emoji. Not a call, not an apology. Just that yellow little face, tilted sideways like my humiliation was entertainment. I stared at the message until the letters stopped looking real. My kids were not uncomfortable. They were 8 and 10. They had handmade cards for their aunt. They had practiced walking slowly because they thought they might help carry flowers. And me? I was apparently useful enough to pay, deliver, coordinate, and solve emergencies, but not clean enough to sit at the table. So I wiped my hands on my jeans, opened the venue contract, checked the payment authorization line, and typed one sentence back. "Then you won't need my card for the venue." I watched the 3 dots appear from my mother, then disappear, then appear again. That was the moment I realized they had not forgotten I was family. They had simply remembered I was the one paying. Before I tell you what happened after I took back the card, the rentals, the staff, and every favor they thought they owned, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. For 10 full minutes, nobody in the group chat said a word. That silence told me more than any apology could have. My mother was not thinking about what she had said about my children. My sister was not regretting the laughing emoji. They were calculating. They were remembering the things they had asked me to temporarily put under my name because vendors trusted my business more than they trusted a bride with 3 declined deposits and a groom who kept saying, "We'll pay after the honeymoon." I stood in the middle of my warehouse surrounded by the wedding they had built out of my labor. There were 200 gold-rimmed chargers stacked against the wall, 12 crates of glass cylinder vases, ivory linens pressed and labeled by table number, and a custom backdrop with my sister's initials packed carefully in foam. My assistant asked if I was okay, and I almost said yes because that had been my default answer my whole life. Yes, I'm okay when you borrow money and forget to pay it back. Yes, I'm okay when you call me dramatic for being tired. Yes, I'm okay when you treat my children like accessories you can hide when they don't match the picture. But that morning, the word would not come out. I told her to take an early lunch, locked the front office door, and pulled up every invoice connected to the wedding. The numbers made my stomach turn. Venue hold, $4,800 on my card. Lighting deposit, $1,150 through my vendor account. Linen cleaning fee waived because of my company. Furniture delivery comped because I had traded favors with another small business owner. Floral arch, champagne wall, cake table, signage stands, aisle candles, guest book station, and 2 staff members for setup. All from me. My sister had called it family help. My mother had called it being generous. Looking at the spreadsheet, I finally called it what it was: exploitation with a white dress on top. Then my phone rang. It was my mother. I let it ring. Then my sister. I let that ring too. Then my mother again. Then a text. Amanda, don't be petty. You know what I meant. That sentence nearly made me laugh. Because no, I did not know what she meant, unless she meant my money was welcome, but my children were not. I took a screenshot of the original text, the laughing emoji, and every message that followed. Not because I wanted to blast them online. I am not that kind of person. I took screenshots because people like my family rewrite history faster than they write thank you notes. By noon, my best friend Claire Bennett came by the warehouse with iced coffee and the look of someone who already knew this was bad. I handed her my phone. She read the text twice, then looked at me and said, Amanda, please tell me you are not still delivering this wedding. I told her I did not know. That was honest. A part of me still heard my mother's voice from childhood telling me I was selfish whenever I said no. Another part of me pictured my daughter asking why Grandma did not want us there. That second part was stronger. Claire set the phone down carefully. They didn't just uninvite you. They uninvited your kids after using your money. There is a difference between revenge and refusing to fund your own disrespect. That sentence landed hard. Refusing to fund your own disrespect. I repeated it in my head while I opened my business email and searched my sister's name. Every contract had a cancellation clause. Every card authorization had my signature. Every discount had been given because of my reputation, not hers. And suddenly, for the first time in years, I did not feel trapped. I felt awake. I texted my mother once, calmly. I need you to confirm in writing that I am not invited and that my children are not welcome. She responded in less than a minute. Yes. It is better this way. Please don't make Rachel's day about you. Claire closed her eyes like she had been slapped. I saved the message, forwarded it to my business email, and opened the first vendor portal. Have you ever been treated like the problem by people who only call you when they need a solution? Because that was the day I finally understood. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop solving. The first call I made was not to my mother. That would have been useless. My mother could turn a grocery receipt into a guilt trip if she wanted to, and I had no interest in giving her a microphone. I called the venue coordinator, a woman named Harper who had worked with me on 6 previous events and knew exactly how careful I was with contracts. When she answered, I kept my voice professional. Hi, Harper. This is Amanda Miller with Miller and May Event Rentals. I need to remove my card authorization from the Miller-Hayes wedding scheduled for Saturday. There was a pause. I heard keyboard clicks. Then her tone changed. Amanda, your card is the one holding the final venue balance and damage deposit. I know, I said. Please remove it. Another pause. Do you want to transfer the authorization to the bride? Yes. Send all future payment requests directly to the bride or her listed emergency contact. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but my voice stayed steady. Harper lowered her voice. Is everything okay? I looked at the screenshot on my laptop. Don't come to the wedding. You and your kids only make things uncomfortable. No, I said. But my business will no longer be financially responsible for an event I have been explicitly told not to attend. Harper did not ask another personal question after that. Professionals understand boundaries better than families sometimes. She explained that if a valid card was not placed by 5 p.m., the venue could cancel access, release staffing, and keep part of the deposit. Since the contract was still in my sister's name but the financial hold was mine, I had the right to withdraw my card before final processing. I thanked her and asked her to email confirmation. Then I called the lighting vendor. Then the linen cleaner. Then the furniture delivery partner. Then my own weekend crew. I did not scream. I did not insult anyone. I simply used the same system that had made me useful to them. Paperwork. By 2:30, the first confirmation came in. Card removed. By 2:47, lighting discount withdrawn. By 3:05, Delivery team canceled pending new payment. By 3:18, floral arch and champagne wall marked unavailable for private family use. By 3:42, I sent a revised invoice to my sister for the rental items she had assumed were free. $6,380 due before pickup. No payment, no equipment. At 4:11, my mother finally stopped texting and started calling like the house was on fire. I let it go to voicemail. Then my sister called. Then her fiancé. Then a number I did not recognize. Then my mother again. At 4:36, the group chat exploded. "What did you do?" my sister wrote. My mother followed with, "Amanda, call me now. The venue says there is no payment method." I stared at the screen, waiting for even one person to say, "We should not have said that about your kids." Nobody did. Not one. My sister wrote, "You're seriously going to ruin my wedding over a text?" That was when I finally replied, "No, I'm refusing to pay for a wedding I was told not to attend." The typing bubbles went wild. My mother wrote, "This is cruel." I almost answered, but Claire, who was still sitting across from me, shook her head. "Don't argue with people who are only upset because consequences arrived." So I put the phone face down. At 5:03, Harper emailed me confirmation that my card had been removed, and the bride had been notified. At 5:19, my sister texted privately, "You know we can't pay all that today." I stared at those words for a long time. We can't pay. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I hurt you." Not, "I should never have mocked your children." Just, "We can't pay." And there it was. The truth under all the lace, candles, and speeches. They had never planned a wedding. They had planned to use me as the invisible foundation and then complain that I made the room uncomfortable. That night, I cooked dinner for my kids, helped with homework, and did not mention the wedding. But after they went to bed, I listened to the first voicemail. My mother's voice was sharp, not sorry. "Amanda, you need to stop this right now. Rachel is sobbing. The venue is threatening to cancel access. Do you understand how embarrassing this is for us?" I deleted it. Because yes, I understood embarrassment. I had just decided mine was no longer free. By Friday morning, the wedding had started collapsing in slow motion, and every falling piece somehow had my name attached to it. My mother sent 12 messages before 8 a.m. The first said, "We need to talk like adults." The second said, "Your sister hasn't slept?" The third said, "People are asking questions." The fourth finally came close to the truth, but still missed it. "You're punishing everyone because your feelings got hurt." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. My feelings did not get hurt like I had been left out of a lunch plan. My children had been called uncomfortable by their grandmother, laughed at by their aunt, and erased from a family wedding after I had paid to make that wedding possible. That was not hurt feelings. That was a bill coming due. At the warehouse, I found my employees waiting quietly, pretending not to notice my swollen eyes. I gathered them near the loading bay and told them the truth without drama. The Miller-Hayes wedding is no longer a company-sponsored family event. No equipment leaves without payment. No one works setup unless a new contract is signed. One of my crew members asked, "Even though it's your sister?" I looked at him and said, "Especially because it's my sister." That sentence surprised even me. For years, family had been the excuse for worse treatment, later payments, last-minute demands, and emotional blackmail. Family meant my sister could change the seating chart at midnight and expect me to fix it. Family meant my mother could volunteer my time without asking. Family meant my kids could be invited when they looked cute in photos and excluded when their presence made adults uncomfortable. Not anymore. Around 10 a.m., my sister finally came to the warehouse. She did not come alone. My mother walked in behind her wearing sunglasses indoors, which was always her way of announcing that she had been crying and wanted credit for it. My sister looked smaller than usual without her bridal confidence. For 1 second, I almost softened. Then she opened her mouth. "You made your point," she said. "Can we have the stuff now?" I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because my body did not know what else to do. "That's your apology?" My mother stepped forward. "Amanda, this has gone far enough." I turned to her. "No, Mom. What went far enough was telling me my children make things uncomfortable after I used my business to hold this entire event together." My sister folded her arms. "Oh my God, it wasn't about the kids. It was about the vibe. You always act wounded, and people notice." There it was again. The family talent. Insult you, then diagnose your reaction. I walked to my desk, picked up the printed invoice, and placed it between us. "Here is the updated rental total. If you pay it, you can rent what is available. If not, nothing leaves this building." My mother stared at the number like I had written it in another language. $6,380? For your own sister? "That is the discounted number," I said. "The full rate is higher." My sister's face flushed. "You're disgusting." I nodded slowly. "And yet yesterday, you wanted my disgusting card, my disgusting inventory, my disgusting staff, and my disgusting children hidden from your pictures." The room went silent. For the first time, neither of them had a ready answer. My mother tried a different angle. "Your father would be ashamed." That used to work on me. It used to make my chest cave in because my father had died before he could see what our family became. But that day, I looked at her and said, "Dad taught me to never sign a blank check for people who don't respect me." Her lips parted. My sister grabbed the invoice and crumpled the corner in her fist. "You'll regret this when nobody in the family speaks to you." I thought about that. Truly thought about it. Then I said, "If the price of being spoken to is letting you humiliate my kids, I can afford silence." They left without paying. 15 minutes later, my mother texted, "You have destroyed your sister." I replied with the first and only question I had left. Why was she so easy to destroy without my money? Friday night was supposed to be the rehearsal dinner. Instead, it became the first public crack in the fantasy my mother had sold everyone. The dinner had been planned for the smaller garden room at the same venue, with my company's cocktail tables, my lanterns, my table runners, and the slideshow screen I had agreed to provide. Without payment, none of it arrived. I know because at 6:12 p.m. my cousin sent me a photo. It showed 30 people standing in a nearly empty room with folding chairs against one wall and a single plastic-covered buffet table in the corner. The caption said, "What is going on?" I did not answer right away. Then another cousin texted. Then my aunt. Then an older family friend who had known me since I was 9. The story my mother had told them was simple. Amanda had gotten emotional and pulled out because she wanted attention. The story the room was seeing was different. There was no decor, no lighting, no seating chart, no welcome sign, and no venue balance paid for the next day. People can ignore cruelty when it is private. They pay attention when it ruins the schedule. At 6:40, my mother called again. This time, I answered, put the phone on speaker, and set it on my kitchen counter while I packed lunches for my kids' weekend soccer game. "Amanda," she hissed, "people are asking why nothing is set up. Tell them the truth." "The truth is, you are punishing your sister." I zipped a sandwich bag slowly. "No. The truth is, you told me not to come. Said my kids make things uncomfortable and still expected me to fund and supply the event." She went quiet just long enough for me to hear voices behind her. Then she lowered her tone. "This is not the place." I almost smiled. Of course it was not the place. The place had been my warehouse where she could pressure me privately. The place had been my childhood bedroom where she could tell me I was too sensitive. The place had been anywhere without witnesses. Now that people were watching, suddenly dignity mattered. My sister grabbed the phone. Are you happy? Her voice was raw, but still angry. My fiancé's parents are here. His boss is here. Everyone thinks we're broke. Are you? I asked. She gasped. How dare you? Rachel, you planned a wedding using money you did not have and support you did not respect. What did you think would happen if the person paying was removed? She started crying then, real tears or strategic ones. I still do not know. You're my sister. That line hit me harder than I expected, because I had wanted her to remember that before she laughed, before she let my kids be excluded, before she treated me like a vendor she could shame into working for free. I was your sister yesterday too, I said. You laughed. There was silence. Then, for the first time, she did not deny it. She whispered, Mom said it would be easier if you didn't come. My mother snapped in the background, Rachel. That one word told me everything. My sister had not invented the exclusion. My mother had orchestrated it. Maybe she thought my divorce made me messy. Maybe she thought my kids would pull attention. Maybe she thought rich in-laws would judge our family if a single mother arrived with 2 children and no husband. The exact reason did not matter anymore. What mattered was that they had decided I was good enough to pay, but not good enough to be seen. I heard my aunt's voice behind them asking, Linda, what did you say to Amanda? Then another voice, wait, Amanda paid for this? My mother's breathing changed. The wall was cracking. She whispered, we will discuss this later. No, I said. You will discuss it now, because you made me the villain in a room full of people who are standing inside the consequences. Then I ended the call. My hands shook afterward. I am not going to pretend I felt powerful every second. I felt sick. I felt sad. I felt like a little girl who had finally pushed back against adults who were never supposed to make her earn love. But underneath all that, there was something solid. My kids came into the kitchen asking why my phone kept buzzing. I looked at their faces, innocent and bright, and knew I had made the right choice. If I had swallowed the insult, delivered the wedding, and smiled in pictures I was not invited to stand in, what would I have taught them? That love means accepting disrespect? That family can hurt you as long as they need something afterward? No. That night, I taught them without explaining it. Boundaries are not cruelty. Sometimes boundaries are the first proof that you finally believe you deserve protection. Saturday morning began with 76 missed calls. I am not exaggerating. 76. My phone looked like it had been attacked. My mother, my sister's fiancé, 2 cousins, an aunt, the groom's mother, and 3 unknown numbers had all called before 9 a.m. The wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. By then, the venue had not received a replacement card for the final balance. The lighting vendor had released the crew to another event. The furniture delivery window had passed, and the floral arch was still locked inside my warehouse, exactly where it belonged. I made pancakes for my kids. That sounds strange, maybe even cold, but it was the only thing that kept me grounded. I poured batter into circles while my mother left a voicemail saying, Amanda, please, we need the venue. Just put your card back and we'll fix everything after. After. That word had carried my family for years. We'll pay you after. We'll thank you after. We'll include you after. We'll respect you after. But after never came unless I forced it. At 10:17, Claire came over because she did not want me to face the day alone. She brought coffee and sat at my kitchen table while I finally opened the family group chat. It had become a digital courtroom. My aunt had written, Linda, did you really tell Amanda not to come? A cousin wrote, why were her kids excluded? Someone else asked, why was Amanda's card on the venue if she wasn't invited? My mother kept dodging. My sister wrote, can everyone stop? This is my wedding day. Then my aunt replied, then maybe you should have respected the person paying for it. I stared at that sentence until my eyes burned. Not because it fixed anything, but because someone had finally said it where everyone could see. Around noon, the groom's mother called me. I almost ignored it, but Claire said, "Answer. You don't know what story she has been told." So I answered. Her voice was tight but polite. "Amanda, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm trying to understand what is happening. We were told you canceled everything out of jealousy." I closed my eyes. Jealousy. Of course. A single mother who built a business from nothing must be jealous of a sister whose wedding she was funding. I said, "I have screenshots. I'll send them if you want the truth." She paused. "Please." I sent the original text, the laughing emoji, my mother's confirmation that my children were not welcome, and the invoice showing the unpaid rentals. 10 minutes later, she called back. Her voice had changed completely. "I am very sorry, I had no idea." She told me the groom's side had already paid for the catering and photographer, but my mother had insisted my family had handled the venue and design. Nobody knew that handled meant me. Nobody knew the polished wedding mood board had been built on unpaid labor and emotional pressure. By 1:30, the venue officially canceled the ceremony access unless full payment, and a new damage deposit were made within 1 hour. My sister's fiancé apparently tried 3 cards. One declined, one had an insufficient limit, one triggered a fraud hold. At 2:08, my sister sent me a voice memo. I did not play it at first. Then I did. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Amanda, please. I know I messed up. I know the emoji was mean. I know Mom shouldn't have sent that. But please, don't do this today. Please don't make me get married in a church basement." I sat very still. There it was. The closest thing to an apology I had received, wrapped in panic, arriving only when the image was threatened. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to rescue her. That was the old reflex, the one that had kept me exhausted for years. Then my daughter walked in wearing her soccer jersey and asked, "Mom, did Aunt Rachel still not want us?" Claire looked down at the table. I felt something inside me go quiet, not angry, not dramatic, just clear. I texted my sister back. "I hope you still get married today if marriage is what matters, but I will not restore the things you only valued after losing them." At 3:12, the family chat received a message from the groom's mother. "The ceremony has been moved to St. Mark's Fellowship Hall. Reception details pending." That sentence spread through the family like a thunderclap. No ballroom, no garden terrace, no champagne wall, no designer lighting, no carefully curated illusion. Just a church basement, borrowed folding tables, supermarket flowers, and a room full of people who now knew exactly why. My mother called one last time before the ceremony. I answered because I wanted to hear whether pride could survive complete collapse. For the first few seconds, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." I looked at my children tying their shoes by the door. "No, Mom," I said. "I stopped covering for you in front of everyone. There's a difference." She hung up. I did not go to the wedding. I took my kids to soccer, bought them ice cream afterward, and turned my phone on silent while they argued over sprinkles like the world had not just split open behind me. Every few hours, messages slipped through. A cousin sent a photo of the fellowship hall. The bride and groom were standing under a plain wooden cross with 2 grocery store bouquets on either side. My sister looked beautiful, because pain does not erase beauty, but she also looked furious. My mother was seated in the front row, stiff as stone, while people whispered behind her. The reception, if you could call it that, happened downstairs with borrowed tablecloths, aluminum trays of food, and a Bluetooth speaker someone had brought from their car. Was it tragic? Maybe. Was it illegal, cruel, or undeserved? No. They still got a wedding. They still exchanged vows. They still had family present. What they lost was the fantasy they tried to make me pay for after removing me from it. That distinction mattered. Around 9 p.m., after my kids were asleep, I opened the longest message from my sister. It was not perfect. It was not the grand apology people dream about. But it was the first message she had ever sent me that did not ask for something in the first paragraph. She wrote, "I hated you today." Then I heard what Mom told people, and I hated myself too. I should not have laughed. I should not have let her exclude your kids. I was scared the wedding would look cheap, and I let that matter more than you. I read that line 3 times. I was scared the wedding would look cheap. There it was, the honest ugliness underneath everything. My mother's message came later, just after midnight. "You made your point. I hope you're satisfied." I did not reply. Satisfaction was not the right word. I did not feel happy that my sister cried in a church basement. I did not feel proud that my mother was embarrassed. Revenge stories make people think the ending is fireworks, but sometimes the ending is just silence. A clean silence. A silence where nobody is yelling demands through your phone. A silence where your children sleep peacefully because they do not know the exact words their grandmother used about them. A silence where you finally understand that peace can feel lonely before it feels safe. The next morning, I woke up to fewer messages. My aunt had written, "I'm sorry we didn't know." One cousin said, "You were right." The groom's mother sent a short note thanking me for telling the truth and apologizing for the way I had been treated. My sister did not ask for money. My mother did not ask for help. For the first time in years, my phone was not a leash. I went to the warehouse, unlocked the door, and stood among the things that had almost been used to decorate my own humiliation. The champagne wall was still wrapped. The floral arch still leaned against the back wall. The gold chargers were still stacked neatly, waiting for clients who would pay properly and say thank you without being reminded. I ran my hand over the edge of a table and thought about all the years I had confused being needed with being loved. They are not the same. Being needed can make you useful. Being loved makes you safe. My family had needed me loudly and loved me conditionally. And when I interrupted the arrangement, they called it cruelty because they had mistaken my silence for permission. A week later, my sister asked if we could talk. I agreed to meet her in a public cafe, not because everything was forgiven, but because boundaries do not have to make you bitter. She cried. She apologized again, this time without mentioning money or embarrassment. She admitted my mother had told her that having my kids there would change the tone, and that I would probably make the day about being left behind. Hearing that hurt, but it also freed me, because the version of me they excluded was not even real. It was a character they had created so they would not feel guilty using the real me. I told my sister I loved her, but I would not be the family emergency fund anymore. I told her my children would never again be optional based on someone else's image. I told her any relationship with me had to include respect when no one was watching, not just apologies when everyone was. She nodded, and for once, she did not argue. My mother took longer. People like her do not apologize quickly because apology requires giving up the role of victim. For weeks, she sent small messages disguised as peace offerings, a heart emoji, a photo from my childhood, a thinking of you. I answered only when I wanted to. That was new. That was freedom. Eventually, she wrote, "I should not have said what I said about the kids." It was not enough to erase the wound, but it was enough to prove she knew where the wound was. I did not rush back. I did not invite her over the next day. I simply wrote, "Thank you for acknowledging it. We'll need time." And that is what I gave myself. Time. Not guilt. Not rescue. Not another blank check signed in the name of family. Time. If this story leaves anything behind, I hope it is this. Family is not a license to use someone until they break. Love does not require you to fund events where you are disrespected, protect people who insult your children, or smile through humiliation so others can enjoy a beautiful day. Boundaries are not revenge when they simply return responsibility to the people who created the problem. Self-respect is not selfishness. It is education for the people who thought your kindness had no limit. And sometimes the moment you stop paying for your own disrespect is the moment everyone finally sees what you were carrying. So let me ask you, if your own family told you not to come but still expected your money, would you have paid anyway, or would you have taken it all back like I did? And have you ever had to set a boundary with someone you loved because loving them was starting to cost you yourself?
You spend months helping your sister create the perfect wedding. Use your own card, your own business, your own time, and even let your family treat your support like something they were entitled to. Then one text changes everything. Your mother tells you not to come because you and your kids make people uncomfortable. At that moment, you realize they never truly wanted you there. They only wanted what you could provide. So you stop paying, stop explaining, and finally choose yourself.